Perfect. So yeah, thanks for that, Mary. And thanks again to our speakers who've come along tonight, because we've got some really interesting things to show you. So we're going to be starting with Pat, who has been really hard at work over the Christmas period developing the Marine Champions website. So it's really exciting to kind of, I'm going to say, get a first look at that. It's actually maybe more of a sneak preview. It's not actually quite live yet, and Mary will just kind of like update on that. So we'll start off with Pat, and then we've got Andy, who heads up Operation Oyster, which is one of BSAC's real sort of cornerstone citizen science projects. So Andy's got a great presentation about how to get involved with Operation Oyster coming up as well. And then I'm going to talk a little bit afterwards about the dive show and some of the other things that we've got kind of coming up for you. So we'll have Pat do his presentation. I think what works best, because there's quite a lot of people, if anyone's got any questions that come up during the presentation, pop them in the chat and I'll kind of monitor the chat. And then at the end, we'll probably have 5 or 10 minutes questions for Pat, and we can either ask them in person or I'll take the ones from the chat, and then we'll do the same during Andy's Oyster talk. So that'll be a little bit kind of more organized, and then we'll get a few of the other exciting events and things at the end. So if I hand back to Mary briefly, and I'm happy to monitor the chat for them.
Thanks, Catherine. So really, it was just to let you know that this is a draft and a prototype, and it's just being shown to you as Marine Champions this evening and any of the coaches that are here tonight. And then it will then go to the regional coaches and to some of our other stakeholders, Sophie H and Sophie Rennie, for checking on the diving side. So it's got quite a bit of work to go through before it goes anywhere. So it's slightly confidential, and we want to keep it between the Marine Champions and the coaches tonight that are on this call, and then we will start doing more work on it with Pat and building on it and sharing it more. So this is hot off the press really, and coming soon. So it's really just to say that it is very a draft, and we'll need quite a few of our stakeholders to go through it before it goes anywhere live. So thanks, Pat. I'll hand to Pat to show it off. Thank you.
Evening, everybody. Nice to see you all. My first Marine Champion introduction, really. So you've all just been names in a spreadsheet to me until today. So it's good to see you all, and thanks for stepping up and offering to be a Marine Champion. So just to pick up on what Mary and Catherine have said. So I am on the marketing team at BSAC HQ, for those who don't know me. And amongst many things that I do is looking at ways to communicate our messaging out. So without further ado, I will cut straight to the chase. So we know there's a website, a microsite, if you like. And as Mary set up, it is a work in progress. So there may be a few holes and things, and it's not by any means meant to show the finished product, and I guess part of the reason for showing all of you as well is to ask you for feedback or ideas if you have them, because I don't profess to have all the answers. So I'll share my email address in the chat afterwards, and if there's things that you would like to see or ideas or whatever, then by all means, then please share them. And make it a team effort. So let's start with the reasoning behind this. So essentially, I think you'll probably agree the Marine Champion branding is strong. We think it's strong, and we felt that the Marine Champion area on the website, it was getting a little bit lost, just because the BSAC website is quite a big, broad church, isn't it? There's a lot of training, staff safety, and our environment is one of our key pillars, as we all know, because we've all read the strategy. So we just felt that, bringing the Marine Champion out of the site and giving it a bit of kind of extra exposure would help our cause, because it is a cause. So by building this kind of microsite, I'm going to call it a microsite, it kind of purifies the Marine Champion message a little bit. There's the opportunity to perhaps simplify it a bit, remove some of the stuff that's kind of surrounding it. A big part of it is also that we want to attract people to Marine Champions who aren't necessarily divers or snorkelers, or certainly not yet anyway. So that means, the broader public, people who perhaps don't have any affinity with the sport, but feel, strongly about marine conservation. So by decoupling it slightly, although I'll come on to the links to BSAC, obviously, we just feel that, it's something that they could come across exclusive, of BSAC and think, oh, Marine Champions, that's, this is a kind of a campaign that I could get behind, really. So part of the decoupling idea is also that it may be easier for us to look to secure funding for this. As you know, BSAC is a not-for-profit, so we haven't really fleshed out where exactly we're going with kind of grant funding and that kind of thing. But obviously, if we can attract, possibly attract big sponsors and that kind of thing, then that could open up all kinds of new opportunities for us. So that's certainly something we're trying to factor in. So I will spin through. If you've got any questions, by the way, pop them in the chat. It's probably fine, and we can I pick them up at the end. I'll start at the top then. So we've got the website, as you can see. We've gone for kind of non-BSAC kind of look and feel. It's a kind of a new website that's got to stand on its own 2 feet. So primarily at the top, we just want people to sort of understand what it is we're trying to do. So that's kind of one of the core objectives. And we also want to make it easy for yourselves to log your activities. So what I've been building out here, and this is a work in progress, is we've got a map, and the plan is that we'll be able to ultimately populate this map with all the kind of good stuff that's going on. So obviously it's a bit of a desert at the moment, but I can imagine, in a few months, this is going to be absolutely peppered with all of the kind of great stuff that you guys have been doing and organising. And of course, we can separate that out, in the kind of activities that are going on. So we've built a form. So the idea is that people can quickly, I know it still needs tidying up a bit, but the idea is you can log the activity you're doing, which will populate a spreadsheet, and then that will power the map, basically. So, sort of data going in. So that this is Catherine's area. Obviously, Catherine, really grooves on this stuff. We want to make sure we're capturing info, building up a picture of all of the kind of citizen science that's going on out there. So that's the logging. We also, we said 50 Marine Champions are over budget already, but the sky's the limit, really. So if people feel they would like to become a Marine Champion, then this is kind of a good place to draw their attention to it. So I built in a kind of a map of you guys, essentially. So clearly I've had quite a mappy kind of few months, but so I apologize in advance. The map is already out of date. It was 50 when I built it, and apparently we're now 63. So some of you won't be on it, but what we wanted to do was just bring to life, where our Marine Champions are, and to kind of give you a bit of airtime, really. So don't worry, I haven't put your personal details in there. No one's going to be contacting you or anything like that. But we were thinking it might be a nice thing, as nice as these little logos are, to actually get your kind of pictures of all of you on there, possibly. And one thing was perhaps to get either a quote from each of you, a couple of lines, or just a para about what it is you hope to achieve, or something of that ilk, just to bring you to life a little bit, because your enthusiasm and commitment will inspire other people, I think. So if they look at the map and they see all this kind of good stuff that's going on, it will help spread the word. So we've got our Marine Champion intro page here. So again, not finished by any stretch. I think Andy should probably be on it. And yeah, so we can keep sort of working on what that looks like. So as well as data going in, we've also got an overview of our projects. So you'll be familiar with all of these. This isn't exhaustive as well, but we've got the core ones off the BSAC site at the moment. And I'll probably add it. It's just this level at the moment. I'll probably add in some more detail about each of these projects and what they require basically to get involved with. You'll see that we've put things like Motion for the Ocean in, which is at the opposite end of underwater litter picking, isn't it? It can be done by anybody. So we want to make sure we're as inclusive as possible. And you'll see that throughout there are kind of nods to BSAC. Obviously we are a member organisation and we want to kind of encourage people to train with us if they feel that's something they want to explore. So down here I've included environmental training for people who want it. And then we've also got resources. So at the moment this is just signposting stuff. So this we might gate this so that it'll be for you guys or for new people, just some sort of core kind of stuff that they need to know to do the Marine Champion role. So the stories bit is the good stories that you guys have been sending in, and I would say just a plea, please, to keep them coming. Again, you'll have my email at the end of this. If you've got a good story, it doesn't need to be War and Peace, but share it with us, and we can add it in and bring it to life a little bit in here. That could include videos as well, or social media. So keep those stories coming in. And then we've got the support part. So this is just about this is kind of the nicey bit, basically, to try and explain our cause really to the public. So I've got written down here bits to come, probably some more about why we think this is important, because we kind of take it as read that marine conservation is important. There may be many people who don't really get it, or haven't really fully thought it through, so I'll probably add some of that in. And we're also, as I mentioned before, looking at grant funding possibilities, those kinds of resources. That's probably a bit further down the line. And then the final bit to come will be, as I was talking to Mary earlier, we've obviously got a map. We want to sort of fill up the map with all the activity, but we would also like to bring it to life a bit in numbers and schematics and that kind of thing. So when we've got the data, I could foresee kind of, using artwork possibly, so that at a glance, kind of in numbers, that kind of thing, possibly video, sort of just to explain the trajectory and, some of our successes and hopefully some of our discoveries. So yeah, a plea from you, really, several pleas. Just any feedback, let me know. If you could provide a headshot, if you haven't already, that would be great, and a very short bio, that would also be great. And then that's some great content that I can add in. So hopefully that gives you a good heads up. So as Mary said, the site is kind of not live, but live, if you like. So I'll share the URL afterwards. You feel free to go and have a look, have a play, with the caveat that it isn't quite ready to be published. It's not like hidden away, but it just isn't publicized yet. So you can freely access it, but please just don't share it outside of yourselves for now. And obviously when we're ready, we will make a song and dance about it and give it the proper launch through the normal channels and the magazine as well. Yeah, I think that's me.
Brilliant, Pat. Thank you for that. That's really good. really excited. I think that's really gonna add to the, you know, the Marine Champions experience, and you know, it looks really good. It looks really nice. It kind of has a little bit of a BSAC feel, but also looks like it kind of, you know, stands alone as well. So yeah, brilliant. Thank you. I thought there would be some excited people with questions in the comments, so I've got a couple for you. Actually, a couple of people have asked, are the maps UK only?
There's no reason for the map to be UK only. I mean, the map is the map. It's obviously that we do have a good bunch of people in the Cayman Islands who've already sent a story in, and it would be rude to exclude them. So if we can go global on this, let's do it. But obviously, yeah, predominantly we're going to, I guess, for now, be mainly based in the UK. But no, it's a worldwide map. Absolutely.
Yeah, I think that one that you were showing, the activity map, just kind of had a couple of test samples on currently, didn't it? Which all happens to be.
Yeah, that's just a demo map. It's not actually real dates. Yeah, exactly that.
But yeah, I think the overseas Marine Champions are already showing on the broader map as well. So yes.
Yeah, so they're two separate maps. So it may be possible that we could overlay one map with the other. So we have the Marine Champions and the projects on the same map. That's maybe a question for the floor if that works better. I don't know. I mean, it could, if there's a Marine Champion on there and there's not much happening in their area, that's not sure, but that might fire the competitive juices. I don't know. Yeah, up for discussion. Everything's possible.
So there's some comments in there that let's go global, but also maybe keeping the maps a bit separate so that we can kind of see. So there's loads of questions coming in now, so I'm actually going to go back to the top so that we don't miss the ones at the top. So Luke was asking about, is there a way of having the contact details connected to the map? So maybe not necessarily personal contact details, but potentially the organisation's email address or something. So that might be a question that you're happy to answer now, or it might be one that's kind of, there's a little bit more thought going behind the data protection of that.
We could absolutely put contact info with the Marine Champions if we want to. And we could do it piecemeal. I mean, we're only talking about, 60 or so records, aren't we? So if somebody said they wanted to have their contact info on there and somebody didn't, that would be doable. I've deliberately left off any kind of, real personal identifiers for now because, I'm cleared it with you. And, if we feel that it's a useful way for people to contact the Marine Champions and that everybody agrees to that, then yeah, absolutely, we can do that. That's not difficult. Yeah.
Perfect. And there's another question that's a little bit similar to that as well, is actually, would there be the opportunity to have a space just for Marine Champions? So we were talking about maybe having some areas that were behind a login for, like, as a discussion forum kind of page. So that's kind of, I think there's going to be lots of good ideas on here as well. So there are probably things that will kind of like take away. They're not things that you necessarily like, Pat, please action these immediately.
Yeah. I had a feeling that the forum idea would come up. I mean, how are you communicating at the moment? Is there some sort of secret WhatsApp that I'm not involved in, or are you not communicating at all? Or
I think at the moment people have set up kind of WhatsApp groups
for
groups, kind of local areas and things, rather than there being a specific BSAC hosted one. That's my understanding. Yeah.
I mean, the old-fashioned way we would have done it would be to set up a regional group, I guess, or like a regional page type, Facebook group, that kind of thing, and then get everybody in there rather than building some sort of native functionality, I would suggest. But because forums are a little bit passé now, but the trouble with WhatsApp groups is that things tend to disappear, don't they? So if people post something, it's more like a conversation rather than a topic based. I don't really have the answer. I think maybe we need to think that through.
Mary's got her hand up. Maybe she does.
Oh, here comes the answer.
No, I don't know if it's an answer actually, but I think it's for discussion, because I think our experience with forums, this is a very positive group, which is great. Our experience sometimes with forums is that they can get a bit negative. I think we just need to, if it's for discussion about what different areas are doing and things like that, I think it's you know, it's a possibility to have a lockdown area for MCs. So some MCs, we did talk about setting up a WhatsApp group for the whole group, and we haven't done that yet. But what has happened since then is that some have set up their own WhatsApp group. So I know that Mel in North Wales has set up a North Wales one. So they're all kind of chatting to each other and being really active and organising different things in North Wales. And so I think that's worked for a lot of smaller groups, and potentially we can look at a bigger WhatsApp group. I think it's just wondering, you know, how we kind of manage it all and whether everybody wants to do it. And the WhatsApp groups can get a bit out of hand as well. So I think it's just managing and checking everyone is happy to do all of this. But I suppose they just don't join it if they don't want to do it. That's the other option. So we have got, so Luke's mentioned about regional. So we have already, it looks like some MCs have set up their own regional WhatsApp groups already, and they're already talking sort of in groups of 5s and 7s, so not the whole lot yet. I think Sandra's come up with a question.
No, it was just basically from the feedback I've had from the MCs to say they need to have some sort of interaction for hooking up with other areas for activities that they've got going on, to maybe invite them to join in or to make it a bigger activity. So I think the demand's there. So we do need to look at some way of them all being able to interact with each other, you know, on some sort of level. Yeah,
agreed.
Yeah. One of the features that we thought might be nice to add to the, you know, the webpage sort of going forward as well, not necessarily in the first wave, is a kind of page where those events and activities, you can kind of post your event and activity and say, this is going on, this is the date, you know, divers, snorkelers on the beach, this is the contact for this event. And then, you know, that could be, people can then sort of see that rolling kind of list of things that's happening.
I've built that as a form, Catherine, but I think we need to give it some thought about how that's presented, because as you say, you know, is it a publicly viewable thing? Do we turn it into like a BSAC event type in whatever format our events comes out? That kind of, you know, there's multiple ways of skinning it, basically.
Well, it's good to get this basic website sorted first and then kind of add the things. Mel, you've got your hand up.
Yes, I was going to say having something where you can advertise in advance opportunities would be really useful for inland groups, because I get a lot of inland groups contact me with being on the North Wales coast. If we're organising anything, to invite them, which, you know, it'd be nice for them to have opportunities as they go.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, I mean, it's quite cumbersome, you know, getting the word out about an opportunity that comes up. So if we can facilitate making that easier for you guys, then we want to do that, definitely. You know, if you're looking for help or whatever, and you've got a great event going on, then we need to make it as easy as possible for you to get other people involved. Absolutely.
I've got a couple of other maybe slightly more quickfire questions in the chat as well. First one from John is, who will be able to log the activities?
So as it stands, anybody can submit it, but it's going to come into the spreadsheet. So I guess that's a bun fight you and I have to have, Catherine, about who's actually checking the data over, or whether it's something that Ed could do. You know, I mean, we don't want duff data coming in. I don't know why anyone would do that, but there's going to be a management job there, isn't there, of purifying the data.
So at the moment, that's not behind a kind of like Marine Champions login wall at the moment, is it? That first off, certainly to start with, that will be open for.
Yeah. Do we want to lock it down? Possibly we do. Again, I don't want to put barriers up to people doing it. Let me take that one away. I'll think about that.
Yeah. Good question, John. Thank you.
Yeah.
And then also one from Louise. So she's saying, I'm new. How do you access the page to look? I think I've kept you talking too much that you haven't actually managed to put the URL in the chat yet.
Sorry. Yes.
Coming up.
Do that now. But you can basically go to marinechampions.org. I will put the link in there now.
Nice. So there's also quite a few comments. So seeing really people saying that they would kind of welcome that kind of communication platform, maybe more along the lines of the sort of WhatsApp rather than a forum. Again, with some of the issues that we've mentioned. So loads of really useful ideas around the communication. It's definitely something that we want to kind of help facilitate, but you know, given all of the issues around kind of group communication things, we've got to just sort of think a bit carefully as to how we want to, like, what's going to be the best for everyone.
Yeah, I mean, time wise, obviously, you know, this is a heads up for all of you. There'll be a lot of sort of you know, opportunity to sort of feedback and everything. You know, my ambition is that we have this kind of looking really pretty sweet by the dive show. You know, it seems like a good point to sort of go big on it, which is only what 5-6 weeks away. So yeah, and then obviously we're into dive season if it ever stops, and we can get stuck in proper.
Thanks, Pat. I'm just wondering, Sophie's on and some of the regional coaches are on. I just wondered if has anybody there got any questions for Pat? Because I'm not sure if this is the first time you'll have seen this as well.
No, I'm happy. All good. I've been taking photos of the pages so that I can read it back when it's not quite so hectic here, which it slightly is, which is huge apologies on my part. But yeah, so no, I'm happy, very happy. And also just to let you know that if you want me to spread the word in at BSAC Japan as well as Australia, then I'll be going there in the next month. So you know, I'd be very happy.
You're just showing off.
Yeah.
Just showing off. That's all that is. Power off, honestly.
I'm from Yorkshire region. I do have a closed Facebook group that has very positive talking on it. We created that because I didn't like the page, because anyone can jump on that and be negative. But we control the group, it's called Yorkshire Regions Connections, so we control it quite well. I do think that works because we publish things in Yorkshire that's going on in branches and regionally. I do think it would work for Marine Champions too, and to link regions and Marine Champions. Now, you're going to tell me off, Mary, but I'm going to say we are filtering in sea search into Marine Champions, aren't you? You know my flag for sea search. We are going to bring some data in there, are we, for sea search?
Not sure if I've got a bit of an issue with the sound.
Sorry,
No.
I missed the question, I think.
Yeah, I think you might have disappeared.
Oh.
Right, Mary, all I'm saying is I hope you're going to pick up some of the data collection we've lost with sea search within Marine Champions. Keep the data collection going. I saw it do a very important job when we were doing the marine conservation zones around the UK for the conservation areas. It'll be sad to lose that tool. If we can pick up that baton and get the marine conservation zones, keep the pressure on the government to keep them. We do not want to be losing this data collection, and you've got the ability with BSAC to get members keep collecting that data. Yeah, we will do that. But I do believe as well, Sea Search have set up their own that they are still doing it, so it's all been reset up and they're off kind of doing things. We did try to work with them, but I think they've kind of set up their own route. But absolutely, we can collect stuff, and that will be part of what we're doing with our website, and then we can share it as well with them. Yeah.
There's a couple of comments come in the chat as well about Sea Search is still continuing and setting up as a CIC. Mel's patiently got a hand up again.
And just to add that I've got a meeting with our Sea Search representative next week. And Mary, if you'd like to be invited to that, that's fine. I'll send you an invite. And also, I've contacted our local Keep Britain Tidy representative, who's giving away free equipment, and all they ask is like a little publicity. But with both of those and BSAC, there's a lot of information being collated, which would be useful for, rather than having separate, have a collective, like you say, keep the pressure on the government.
Yeah, yeah, no problem. Yeah, I'm happy to do that, Mel, if you want me to.
Okay. So yeah, I think that's picked up most of the questions. Yeah, again, a few questions about sea search kind of continuing. Some people are doing some training research. Also talking about, could you add it as an activity to the activity tracker? So I'm not sure if it's a specific thing yet, and I suspect there's probably also categories to kind of add your own. Is there, Pat?
I'd have to look into that. I mean, we don't we want to kind of we don't want to sort of make it wide open that anybody can add anything, but you know, broad categories we've kind of nailed down, haven't we, about what we're asking people to do. So
we'll have, another one to think about then, I guess.
I think so. I'm not too au fait with sea search, so you might have to brief me on that exactly, whether we can take their data and
we can do that. But yes, thank you for suggesting that. So I think we've kind of sort of come a bit to the end of the time allocated for that slot, and it seems like the questions are kind of slowed down a little bit there. So
just before you move on, Catherine, just thanks everybody. I'm just going to put my email in the chat, and if you do have feedback, questions, anything at all, just ping it to me. And as I said, your homework is to go away and come up with a bio. A couple of lines will be fine, and possibly get a headshot as well, and then we can update the map. That'd be great. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Pat. That's really, really great introduction to the website, and really great website. Really great work. Really excited to have that out there.
Thanks, Pat.
So next up, we'll move on to Andy Hunt, who is the founder of Operation Oyster, one of the activities that you'll be able to collect your data for and log onto the activity tracker. So again, similar thing with questions. If they come up during the talk, pop them in the chat, and then we'll go through a question session at the end. So I'll hand over to Andy.
Okay, I'll just share screen. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yes.
See me okay? I just need to sort my screen out. Cool. Right, I'll get on. Hi, everybody. I'm Andy Hunt. I'm a first-class diver, national instructor. I've been diving 36 years this year. I've been on NDC for 20 years, originally as expeditions officer, then as first-class diver chief examiner, and when I managed to jettison that, I got expedition officer back again. So tonight's talk is about Operation Oyster. And what I'm going to do, if this thing works, is tell you a little bit about BSAC, which sounds a bit of an odd way to start, but that's sort of where the roots of Operation Oyster came from. Then a little bit about how Operation Oyster started, some of the achievements over the last 5 years, a bit about an organisation called the Native Oyster Restoration Alliance. Somebody got an open mic on? Everybody just make sure they're on mute. Okay, thanks. Some of the key challenges that I'm facing now with the project, how you can help, some support materials, and then we'll finish for some questions. So here we go. So British-Sub-Aqua Club, you will know some of these details. You'll also know that the Duke of Cambridge, Prince William, is our president, and he's very keen on environmental things, which is cool. Not for profit, all that sort of governing body for the sport. It promotes underwater science and exploration. So if you've ever read a boring document called the Articles of Association, you will find those keywords in there. And it's also got 20,000 plus volunteer diver members. So you combine those things, you've got somebody at the head of the organisation who's passionate about the environment. The aims of the organisation are to promote underwater science and exploration, and it's got hopefully a lot of willing volunteers to do something about that. So it's really good to see so many marine champions stepping up to the cause. So Operation Oyster kicked off, I think the idea of it was being kicked around about 6 years ago, just before the pandemic. And the idea I was circulating at the time was, wouldn't it be good to have another citizen science project because it had been many years since the last big one, and that was called BSAC Operation Kelp, and that was organised by a chap called Dr. David Bellamy. And when I first mentioned it, this idea, I called it BSAC Operation Kelp 2, but that was a bit of a working title. So for a little while, people thought I was keen about kelp, but it was actually oysters. And the reason for oysters was a bit by accident. BSAC and the Zoological Society of London had organised a photography competition. I thought I could do with some lessons, and that was one of the prizes. I took some photos. I think this was probably one of them. That's a native oyster there at the bottom of Totland Pier. I didn't win, but it got me really interested in the whole native oyster community. So then that sort of became the focus of this project, aiming to mobilise all the membership, but also the direction was to support efforts to rehabilitate native oyster populations. Now, the problem with native oysters, their Latin name is Ostrea edulis. We ate them all 150 years ago, and then various other things have contributed to wiping them out. And there's been a growing movement over the years to try and do something about that and restore them. So this is what we've been up to. The project initiated in 2020, just as we were getting shut down. So key stakeholders, we got involved with the Blue Marine Foundation, Zoological Society London, University of Portsmouth, and then a little bit later on, Seawilding came along, which is where I met Catherine rather fortuitously at an event up in the Sound of Mull. We set up an information portal to gather information. For information and to collect data. So if you just do bsac.com/Operation Oyster, you've got that, but seeing what Pat's done, hopefully that information will now magically appear on your new website. I did a TEDx talk. I'd sort of both recommend doing one, and then if you've done one, you never want to do one again, back in 2021. So I managed to promote Operation Oyster at that. And then attended a virtual NORA conference and went in person to another one promoting Operation Oyster and this citizen science project over the last sort of couple of years. We've trialed data collection with volunteer divers. So if you do bsac.com/record-an-oyster, you'll go to the current data collection portal. I've run numerous expeditions around the UK, and we've dived a number of restoration projects all around the UK, down here where I live in the Solent at Langston Harbour, and also at the other end of the country in Orkney, and then somewhere in between Loch Craignish and Loch Allen. And somehow the Operation Oyster project got sidelined a little bit, and I worked with Catherine to co-author the BSAC Underwater Surveyor course and trial that with helps of lots of members all around the UK. So a bit about the Native Oyster Restoration Alliance. It's a group of scientists, industry bodies, individuals. It's a pan-European, probably pan-worldwide sort of organisation now that has been doing lots of research into native oysters. Why have they disappeared in some places, and how we can restore them? And they've produced a huge amount of information. They do some great infographics. This is just one of them, showing the benefits of oyster restoration, and you'll probably pick out there's a little diver in there as well. But there's so many good things associated with oysters. They provide a lot of ecosystem services, key ones being I think water clarity. We'll come back to that later, and the ability to enhance biodiversity and stabilize sediments, a whole load of things you can just read on there. They also do a lot of scientific information, and what they've done, they've taken a lot of academic papers and distilled those down into sort of guides, which refer out to some of the academic literature, but they sort of dumb it down and make it, well, they don't really dumb it down too much. They filter it and edit it to a level that makes it a bit more accessible to lesser mortals who aren't marine biologists, but not dumbing it down too much. And so there's some infographics which tell you about the life cycle of the oyster, like this. So it does, I think, add another dimension to marine life identification, and because we're just focused on one species with this particular project, you can really dig into the detail of that if you want to. This is what one of the projects looked like in practice. It's a group of divers going diving off the Isle of Wight. I'm sort of in the middle with the cap. The guy on the right-hand side is a very important person in the field of oysters. He is a guy called Dr. Luke Helmer. He works for the Blue Marine Foundation, and he's been hugely helpful to me in sort of like pointing me in the right direction for various parts of the project. And he's been diving with us a few times off the Isle of Wight when we've been looking for oysters. In fact, the first slide I showed, that was him as we were going around looking for oysters. It wasn't a seagrass project, but there is a bit of seagrass down here as well. So this is what an Operation Oyster dive might look like. So just so you got full disclosure, I also run a BSAC centre down here on the Isle of Wight. My focus is expeditionary diving and training associated with that, and this is just one of the videos that I've produced on that. So I'll just play it now. Enjoy, control your volume, and I'll keep quiet for a bit. Hopefully it'll work. Right, okay, let's all move on from that. So that was just, in some ways, just a normal wreck dive. Oh, if I can move that on. How do I move on? There we go. And the one of the simplest ways to support the project is just identifying where you find them and get a photograph of it. But they are quite difficult to spot, and it takes a while to get your eyes into it. So this is just a bit of a screenshot showing some of the dives that we've done around the Isle of Wight, where the green ones obviously where we've found them. We're also looking for invasive species, competing species, and various bits and pieces like that as well. I mentioned earlier they're quite difficult to spot. They form. They are known to sort of form reefs. They're sessile, they stay in place, so they will naturally sort of attract the local fauna. So that's what makes them quite difficult to spot. But you can normally make out a bit of a smile that they have if you catch them while they're sort of feeding and open. But yeah, they are quite difficult to spot. Once you get your eye in though, they can look quite abundant, and certainly around the Solent, but they're nowhere near here in the quantities that they used to be. They are on the Biodiversity Action Plan list, and there's various statuses for them, so you definitely don't want to be eating them. Yeah, a lot of this was just on sort of dives around the Solent. It's given us an opportunity and a focus to a lot of dives, and on some of them we've sort of played around with photogrammetry as well. You don't necessarily need to do them. Look for native oysters underwater. A lot of work has been done in the intertidal area. So I'll just point out on the screen. So this photograph here was taken in Langstone Harbour, where you get the non-native species as well as the native species together. The flat oyster name is given because one side is flat and the other is concave. This is a native oyster from Jersey, slightly different colours, but this is the other side of the shell. This image here is of a whopping great big oyster. This is from Loch Craignish, where there's Sea Wilding Art have a project to restore them. The interesting story behind this, it was donated to the project by a local who had actually foraged it and eaten it. So I think hadn't quite grasped the nature of the project. Here's another video. I'll just pause it. I'll just tell you a little bit about this one. So this was an expedition I ran probably a couple of years ago now, off Clasina. We had a mission to do a few things. One, we were trialing the underwater surveyor course at the time, so you'll see a bit of underwater surveyor teaching going on. But whilst Operation Oyster focuses on locating remnant populations and recording oysters, the end game is to try and build a reef. That's where I'm going to. So as part of this, we got a sculpture from a PhD student down at the University of Portsmouth, and we had a bit of an exercise to try and see what it would take to get a group of sports divers to install one of those. So again, I'll just all play and enjoy. Just sort of pause it there. So there's a couple of people coming up who've been really helpful to the project as well. So Craig Burton's a diver. He lives up in sort of the Lochaline sort of area, but he's spent a career working aquaculture. So he sort of really understands things from a perspective, and he's part of the BSAC team that behind Operation Oyster, who sort of helps keep us in check as well. Just sort of play it along. And there's another guy coming up shortly. So we had a guest speaker, Richard Land again. His expertise is micro hatcheries. So he's director of a company called North Bay Innovations. So we got him on board Clasina, and the deal was he got fed, provided he could give us a bit of a talk on hatcheries and oysters and stuff like that. We discovered he didn't quite like boats, but he did a really good talk. Yeah, and then this is Abby Burt's sculpture, and that's made out of especially formulated concrete, which includes sort of crushed up shells to attract marine life. So that would potentially be a building block of an artificial reef. So that's the idea of that. So there's another video. Right, let's click on and move on somehow. Oh, I don't know how we do that. Okay, so key challenges. One of the things I'm very aware of is I don't really want volunteer time wasted. So we're collecting this data, and success in my eyes is making sure that that data is collected, validated, and used and made accessible to the wider scientific community and used by the wider scientific community. So part of the aim is to try and get all this data through the various gatekeepers to the National Biological Network. Another thing is just volunteer time and getting volunteer leaders. A lot of these projects don't happen by accident. They need a leadership to make them happen. And so looking at so many volunteer marine champions around, I'm greatly encouraged by that. So that could help with that problem. The other thing which we're working on, and it sounds like this is a subject that's topical within this group as well, is making sure we collect the data efficiently, safely, and also in the correct format, just to make that data collection process smooth. The organising dives and going diving is the relatively easy bit. I've discovered that getting that data through in an efficient way is quite tricky, and then getting it past the QA checks to get it into the National Biological Network. So these are the areas you could help with. Go diving, fill in a form. Even if you don't see oysters, a null point is still data, and it at this stage it sort of helps check out our data collection processes and get feedback on that. We're not just looking for live native oysters. A lot of the expeditions I've run, I found evidence that there used to be beds in places where we weren't really expecting them. So it's turned up some surprises. There are people who are already helping optimize processes for getting data into the NBM database. So Catherine, I think, is on the case with that. And then I'm still looking to organize some oyster-related diving expeditions. There's some unfinished business up in around Mull. I've got some sites I'd like to go and have a look for some native oysters. And there's possibly some stuff I'll be doing down south as well, but those are still in the planning stage. But what I need for that is sort of indication of who would like to come along on those. Generally, I'm looking for sort of dive leaders for some of the liverboard trips, but it's I've taken experienced sports divers in the past. Some support materials. These are a couple of videos which you might find useful to promote Operation Oyster. So enjoy this one. Here we go.
Oysters, aren't they an aphrodisiac? Good with champagne or a pint of the black stuff. But did you know, a single UK native oyster can filter up to 200 litres of seawater a day? Help us regenerate our native oyster population.
There we go, that's one. And then this one is a bit of a short thing telling you how you can
It's great that you're taking part in BSAC Operation Oyster. Now you've spotted some UK native oysters, record your discovery on the BSAC website. You can upload photos and video too. Visit bsac.com/record an oyster.
Oysters, aren't they an aphrodisiac?
There we go. So that's it, I think. Thanks for your time. Are there any questions?
Brilliant. Thank you, Andy. That was really interesting. Hopefully there's lots of people inspired to take on some Operation Oyster surveys. I'm sure there'll be a few people that will be interested in hearing more about the trip in the Sound of Mull. That sounds like a good opportunity for people to get involved with. So there has been a little bit of ongoing chat about sort of the remit of what sort of fits in terms of like Marine Champions activities and things in the chat. So I think maybe Mary will pick that up after the questions that are relevant to Andy, if that's good. So if anybody's got any questions for Andy about Operation Oyster, how to get involved, whether they really are an aphrodisiac, pop it in the chat or pop your hand up. Otherwise, Andy's going to get away like scot-free with no questions at all. And I can't believe you guys don't have any questions about Operation Oyster. Okay, so it's a good one from Samantha. You gave a little bit on this in the talk, but how do you get your eye in? Because they do look quite difficult to spot.
I think you find one. Once you've found the one, then you look for others. So the tricky ones to spot are the sort of juveniles. But the key trick is looking for the mantle. So if you were diving in the Red Sea and you were looking for a clam, for example, you'd see that sort of wavy sort of smile, and you'd look inside and you'd see that sort of mother of pearl type shell and sort of the fleshy mantle. And that's what you have with sort of feeding native oysters. They don't swim away, but they do close slowly. So once you've spotted one of those, then even if it's closed and you've kept your eye in, you'll home in on it. The key thing we're looking for is clusters of them. So one of the interesting thing on wrecks around here is you find clusters, and where you have clusters, there's a chance that they will spawn and reproduce more effectively than if they're on their own, lonesome. So actually, photographs of clusters is quite important. But to this date, we haven't really found anywhere in the UK that we could describe as a native oyster reef. Some of them class as beds, so there is an elusive target to find a proper reef.
Thanks, Andy. That's good advice. So I think you've maybe got one taker for your expedition. Vix is asking, where can you find out details about the oyster expedition and others?
I'll probably good questions. So this will probably run through my centre. So it's vectusexpeditions.com. So that's where I put one or two of those things up on those. As for sort of wider BSAC things, then not quite sure, but usually I just put them on the centre website.
Oh, look, Patrick's all over it for you already in the chat.
You can do it. Okay, great.
Thanks,
I'll let Patrick know.
Perfect. And then a little bit of data coming in for you already. Alison has said, thanks, Andy. She'll send details of a shore dive on Mull, where they came across a good sized reef in 3 or 4 meters. So
yeah, Mull. So is that east coast of or west coast of Mull?
Alison can jump on.
Oh, that was on the west coast of one of the locks.
Yeah, so
just
I've got
walking off the beach.
Yeah, so that's good. Yeah, I look forward to the photographs of that one, Alison. Thank you.
Okay.
And another question about the identification actually as well. Where can we find material related to identification of the oysters as a first step to participating?
Yeah, so a lot of those photos I showed in the presentation, they are actually on the BSAC website. There is a section on the Operation Oyster website which goes, what do they look like in reality, and not there's a picture what you might find in the scientific textbook, but there's also the reality on the ground as well. Or sorry, not on the ground. Well, it could be if you're intertidal, if you're underwater, on a wreck or reef. So
yeah. And Pat's popped that link in already as well. So thank you, Pat. I know one of the things I find quite useful in terms of identifying sort of shells and things full stop is actually, picking some of the shells up on the beach, because you then can pick them up, look at them, hold them next to your book, you know, the sort of things that you can't really do with the live wild ones in the water. So finding some intertidal ones is sometimes a good way of getting your eye in a bit as well. Yeah, brilliant. Pat's just put the link to the ID guide there as well. Fantastic. Anybody, any more questions before we kind of finish that up with Andy and move on? But thank you for that, Andy. That was really, really interesting. So hopefully we'll have again an Operation Oyster. You know, as you said, you can do that. You can do that on deep wreck dives. You can do that snorkeling. You can do that intertidally. So it's something that any of the clubs can kind of get involved with, and anyone within the club can get involved with as well. Is that right?
Yeah, it should be. I mean, I'm quite keen to get a picture of an oyster in 80 meters. So they apparently live between 0 and 80 meters, but I haven't managed to convince anybody in the tech diving community to take their eyes off brass. So I have seen them down off the Isle of Wight. We've got a wreck with some in 35 meters. And I know there's a couple of projects in the offing at the moment, one with a local club that's looking to survey the side of a whole wreck, and I'm looking to sort of do that. So some of the data collection portals we're trying to improve to facilitate that. So you have like a basic level of a survey, which is, can you recognize it? Just put your computer, again, it's something for scale. If you've got your computer, you've got your depth, you've got your time, you've got your water temperature, take a photograph and then extract it up to the website. But a more advanced one should dovetail in better to things like I forgot the type of search now. My mind's gone blank. Anyway, sort of like a proper transect along the bottom. So if you're finding multiple samples and you found a bed or a reef, we're trying to get to the point where we've got something to collect that data efficiently. But that same sort of technology could be rolled out, I think, amongst other Marine Champion projects. You just change the title. Yeah, you might be looking for something else, or car tires, or whatever it is, you know. So yeah.
Brilliant, Andy. Thank you very much. So yeah, I think that's most of the questions that we've got about oysters for now. So hopefully when people go away and have a look at the resources, you'll either feel comfortable to go out and have a go, or maybe there'll be some. Have you got a way people could contact you actually with any other questions?
Well, I think there's oyster@bsac.com. I think that gets forwarded to me, or andy.hunt@bsac.com.
Brilliant.
Expeditions@bsac.com. I've got so many emails. Just pick one.
Brilliant. Thank you. That's great. Thank you. So I said there's that one question that's kind of come up in the chat about, you know, really sort of, it's, I guess, was flagged by the map and talking about, are Marine Champions promoting solely BSAC activities, or are Marine Champions also encouraging their clubs to get involved in other activities that are good for marine conservation and like for the environment? So Mary, do you want to sort of come in and sort of pick out some of the nuances of that and kind of explain?
Yeah, I mean, it's quite clear to me, you know, Marine Champions it's a BSAC activity, and we wanted it to be about our clubs participating in BSAC projects within clubs. And we absolutely understand about collaboration between other organisations, and really happy, you know, our clubs are already doing that, as you know, Luke and different people have said. You know, there's lots of sea search dives going on. What we wanted is, we're responding to what our clubs have asked and our members, which is they want to do BSAC activities in their clubs. So that's what Marine Champions is about. It's about BSAC activities, getting us all together, and, you know, us as BSAC divers doing our bit for the marine environment. And that's not to say that we may well join in with, you know, Catherine and I have been talking to Wildlife Trust and to Sea Search, but and you know, we can absolutely do some collaborative projects, and so can you, but primarily this is about us and BSAC divers doing BSAC projects and participating in BSAC in activity. So that's what our kind of our thinking for BSAC Marine Champs is. And you know, absolutely, if you want to choose to go and do joint projects, that's fine, but a lot of, you know, our website will be about BSAC projects. We don't want to start populating it with a load of Sea Search stuff, because that's not, Sea Search have got their own, you know, they've got their own route that they're doing and their own plotting, so, and it will get very confusing. So yeah, so it's quite simple. And it, you know, I think Alison in her talk at the last one and the recording, that was a really prime kind of BSAC project with her club, and so I think that's what we're trying to nurture.
Thanks, Mary. Hopefully that's, yeah, kind of like clarified that for people, because yeah, it is a bit of a kind of, yeah, thing to kind of get straight in your head, isn't it? So
yes, I mean, there's so much going on, isn't there? And it's absolutely brilliant. And, you know, as you know, we will promote all of these different projects, but Sea Search will want to get their own data and keep it on their whatever it is that they've now set up. And so, of course, we can share that data, but this is, so we don't want it all to get confusing. So I think it's, you know, it's BSAC. Yeah.
Nice, thanks. So I think the last thing really that I've got to come on to cover is just to talk about what's coming up next for Marine Champions, and that includes the Go Diving Show. So what's kind of planned for the Go Diving Show. So actually, the next thing that we have is the next one of these meetings, which is on the 10th of February. And that will be a little bit different. Rather than having so many talks, that one's going to be aimed at getting you guys thinking, okay, so how do we actually then get these activities going for 2026? What do we want to do? Who do we need to talk to? How do we get these things going? So we might bring in some of the different resources that are on the website. We'll probably have some slightly more interactive things for you folks as well for that. So that's, you hopefully have had the timetable go out of the next few meetings, and we'll send it out again after this meeting, but 10th of February is the next one of these. And then 28th of February is going to be meeting up in person at the Go Diving Show. So instead of an online webinar, 28th of Feb will be the Go Dive Show session. And we've got one of the seminar rooms in the dive show venue booked from 1:15 till 3:15 for our Marine Champions event. So we'll be meeting up in person. We've got a number of different things going on. So some of our speakers that you've met before are going to be coming along. So we'll be there, so we can meet you in person. You can ask us, you know, the sort of BSAC questions and those sort of technical questions in person, and we can say hello, which would be really nice. Emily Cunningham, who's the founder from the Motion for the Ocean, is going to be coming along. So when we did that talk, it was really good to hear that some of you had already taken that forward. Other people had some kind of questions and feedback, and maybe places where counsellors had come with kind of like not the response that you'd expected, and like what was the advice for that. So Emily is the best person to go to for any questions, Motion for the Ocean. So she'll be there to ask questions about. Eric, who came and talked at the pre-Christmas session about the Great Seagrass Survey, he'll be there, so you can talk about how to get seagrass surveying going within your plans for the summer for the year. I'm trying to think off the top of my head who else we've got coming along. And then we have Ambassador Andy Talbot's going to be coming along as well, so you can bring your snorkel to get signed. I'm not sure what I'd want Andy to sign, but maybe my snorkel. And he's going to be doing the prize draw. So I think the first sort of communications went out before Christmas, but basically if you use hashtag BSAC Marine Champions with your club socials about any of these Marine Champion activities that you're doing within your club, each time you use the hashtag BSAC Marine Champions, you'll have an entry into the hat. And then Andy is going to pull an entry out the hat at the dive show, and the winner is going to get some of the BSAC like clothing merch like this, and the beanies and things. So I think I've described the entry criteria correctly, haven't I, Mary? And thank you, Mary, for making the prize available.
Yeah, you did. Yes. Yeah.
So that's the plan for the dive show, and then obviously There'll be a BSAC stand. Everyone will be there to chat to on the stand as well. We'll be encouraging other people to sign up as Marine Champions. And we're going to have just sort of a general information event for prospective Marine Champions on the Sunday. So you may or may not want to attend that yourselves because you now know what being a Marine Champion is, but you might want to encourage other people if they're saying, oh, I might be interested in it. Then there is going to be that face-to-face session on the Sunday at the dive show as well. So that was a little whistle stop as to what's happening at the dive show. Oh, tickets. That was the other one thing that people were going to want to know about. So there is the 30% discount on the tickets that BSAC's been able to arrange. So that will be applicable for Marine Champions as well. And 7th of January, Mary, I think I'm correct with this. If you look on the news blog and scroll back to the 7th of January, that's where the link is to be able to get your tickets with the discount. Is that correct?
Yes, correct. Yeah. I think Pat will probably put it in chat for you because Pat generates all the
Pat's been so good at putting everything in the chat this evening. Thank you. Oh, look, there we go. Straight in with the voucher code. That sounds like an easier description to me. Use the voucher BSAC 30 than the description that I just gave. So thank you. Okay, so anybody got any questions on the dive show? And then we'll pick up some of the other questions in the comments. Can we have a little show of hands? We will send out a doodle poll after this meeting to everyone, because I know not everyone's able to make it tonight, to see who's planning on coming. Could anyone pop up your hand just now if you're planning on coming to the dive show and want to come along to the Marine Champion event? Just because then we can get an idea of numbers. Quite a lot of people then. Brilliant. Great, yeah, loads of people. So we'll send out the poll afterwards, say, to get a feel from everyone else as well. It might be that we end up running the session sort of slightly staggered because there are only so many people that can fit into the conference room that we've got. So we might have a kind of like maybe a sort of circulation so that you can still all meet each other if we don't, but we'll keep you posted on what that's going to be.
I think it'll take up to 25 to 30, so I'm sure that'll be fine.
Should probably get
and you've got some speakers lined up, haven't you? So yeah, so I think the dive show will be a really good place for everyone to catch up and just meet each other, and then sometimes easier to talk about you know, some of the WhatsApp groups and things like that face to face. And I think Luke's got a talk there, so that would be good to go along and listen to that. And I think if it's all right, Catherine, I just want to follow up on what Janet's saying.
Yeah, I was thinking about that.
Yeah, I think I don't want to get hung up on this. You know, it is about collaborating. You absolutely can do that, Janet, and link in, and it's absolutely fine. But I think what we're trying to do is also generate BSAC projects. So, you know, the stuff that Luke's doing as well, it's all really good, and you can absolutely all collaborate, and that's really good stuff. But I think that we're just keen for BSAC to do some work in this space. So of course, you know, you can get your club members doing sea search, and most of them do it anyway. And what we're trying to do is just to generate some BSAC work as well. So hopefully that's clear. So, but you can do whatever projects you like, and because they're all great and they're all for, you know, for sort of conservation. But I think our ultimate thinking was that we'd like to get some of our own clubs, and that will help with funding, because if it gets mixed, it's quite difficult to go for the funding as well. And Catherine's going to be talking about a couple of projects, BSAC projects that we would like to do this year about, I think, dive in and litter out, isn't it, Catherine? And some actual specific projects that we'd like to encourage our clubs to do, which you can all still do, as well as all the other projects you're doing. Yeah. So hope that. But Janet, happy to speak to you independently if you want. You can just, I'll put my email address in and we can have a chat. But I'm hoping that that's clear for everyone. We just kind of are keen to do some BSAC things as well. And I think Luke's got the right idea. He kind of manages to mix it all up. I don't know if you want to say anything, Luke, as well about, you know, because you do a mixture of things, don't you? And I don't know if you want to say anything.
Yeah, sorry, it took me ages to unmute the mic then.
Okay.
Yeah. So as well as doing the Marine Champions thing for BSAC, obviously, as some of you know, I look after Fathoms 3 as well. But what I did to sort of kick things off with the club down here is, you might have seen back last year when the weather was absolutely pants for about a month solidly, I organised a beach clean as a collaborative thing just to sort of kick things off. But that was why really I was sort of asking the question about the maps, because I'm quite keen to we're going to do loads of collaborative stuff, but also I think we want distinctive things as well. So, or I do anyway. So I'll have my Fathoms 3 hat on with the ghost gear recovery stuff and a bit of the sea search, but then I want to do other cleanups and recoveries and whatnot with the club hat on. And then we're not sort of riding off the back of other people's sort of success, if that makes sense. And it makes it clear on the map as well. When people look at the map, they'll be like, that was a BSAC driven result. So the diving officer at Peninsula, you know, we've already had conversations about doing some cove cleanups. So we'll go out, we'll do a dive, and then during the surface interval, we'll find some remote coves to go and clean, and then we'll do the second dive. So what we plan to do is combine, you know, a recreational summer Sunday where we'll have 2 dives in, but the hour and a half we'll spend on the surface, we'll go and, you know, go and clean a remote beach or something like that, and that will be a BSAC, you know, driven event. But, you know, that's not taken away from the fact that we've organised with Cornwall Wildlife Trust to do a sea search course in March to bring more of our divers on board. But I think out of 80 members we've got in the club, about a third are already sea search divers anyway. And I just thought if I was to say to them, can you all let me know every time you fill out a form, I'd overwhelm Patrick with a load of stuff that really isn't driven by us. And I mean, if there was a prize for having the most marks, I'd quite happily do it, because, you know, we 2 of the club members, I think, submitted something like 30 forms each last year. They literally, every dive they go on, they submit a form. And I think it'd be quite good to have a distinction between what we're doing as BSAC and, you know, and what other clubs are doing, even if it's collaborative things.
Yeah, thank you. I think that's made it really clear, Luke, from a sort of grassroots, that's how we envisaged it. So thank you for that.
Good stuff. That sounds like that's pretty much everything that we were kind of planning on covering this evening, and I think that's kind of most of the questions that have come up. So if there's anything else burning, pop it in the chat in the next few minutes or so and we'll pick that up.